Today we are planting fruit trees in the backyard.
I'm Nadia. And I'm Ola. Welcome to pearlsandshoots.com.
Living in different time zones,
We are two unique flowers from the same garden.
together we share our pearls of wisdom,
Love for gardening,
homegrown food,
healthy living.
and beauty.
We are sisters in blooms.
As intimidating as it might seem, fruit trees are actually very easy to grow. Some of the benefits of growing your own fruit trees is, well, one, you get fruit trees.
Snackies! There's nothing that can compare to coming home from work after a long, stressful day. You got the munchies, you come outside and it just falls off a tree into your palm. It's red and delicious, and you bite into it and you're satiated.
I'm hungry.
She's always hungry.
The first thing that you want to do is find out what fruit trees grow in your area. So my recommendation would be to go to your nearest nursery and just ask them what fruit trees to plant and what varieties grow best. So you'll want to buy them close to the time that you're planning on putting them into the ground.
And most places, I think, have them for sale right around that time too. So
Exactly. The second thing you want to do is you want to select an area in your backyard that gets a lot of sun, at least 6 hours of sun every single day. Some trees do okay with less sun, but you want to check on that with your local extension or nursery. You also need to imagine what size the tree will be when it gets to its full size, so that it has plenty of room to expand.
Got it.
When I plant my fruit trees, I want to at least have 12 feet of space in between every single fruit tree, and that's minimum.
I've read somewhere, or I think you told me, that a tree requires proper drainage.
A great test to check the soil is dig a hole. Just dig a hole the size that you would need to plant your fruit tree, and we'll get to that here in a minute. And fill it up with water to the very top, and just time how long it takes for that water to drain completely. So if it takes hours, then you probably have very compacted soil that does not have good drainage.
And if it is, you want to add some peat moss and some compost to your top soil. Now, if your soil is great, you can skip that part. When I dig my hole, how big does the hole have to be?
The hole needs to be at least twice as big or twice as wide as the root, and about twice as deep.
The roots are this big. My hole needs to be this wide.
About twice as big from side to side.
Okay, that's easy enough. So I have all that ready. I can go, scoop up like 50-50 peat moss and 50% compost.
Yeah.
And then I would mix that with 50% of my soil. How do I know how deep does it have to be?
You want to identify the root ball. So that is what they call the graft site, and that's where they took the fruit tree and the root and they grafted it together. And that's like the whitest little part of the base of the tree.
It's like a little bump.
Yeah, it's like a little elbow or a kneecap or something. I guess the kneecap of the tree. You want that to be a little bit higher than the ground level. And what we did is we put a stick across our hole and then kind of use that as a support to show us where the ground level is, and held our root ball a little bit higher than that stick, and
put the roots in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to spread them out so they're not compact and squished. Okay. They all have to be under the ground or they'll dry out, and you don't want that for a young tree.
And then you very, carefully, gently start scooping the soil, the original soil that was on top of your hole.
So that's your topsoil.
Your topsoil.
The soil that you dig out when you're digging your hole, and that soil that you're digging out is actually full of lots of good nutrients, and so you want that soil to go in first into your hole around your roots. Once you get a lot of that soil covering the roots, and it kind of helps stabilize it because the compost and the peat moss is a lot softer, and so the topsoil that you're putting on top of the roots helps kind of stabilize it.
And once you get all that in, you should be able to, once you put the topsoil in, you should still have half the hole to fill, and you should be able to remove your stick, and your tree should be able to stand on its own. And that's when you can kind of even it out so it's level, so it's up and down. So
it's right in the center.
Not angled. Okay. And then we would take the compost
and our peat moss.
And fill that in and pat it in.
Yep. And you want to make sure that you have kind of a dip so that when you water your tree, the water doesn't flow out of your hole. And something I personally like to do is add some straw and some leaves that I gather around our property and just put that on top to help retain moisture. And that's a great way to reuse leaves from last fall that you should have cleaned up and you didn't.
Eco-friendly tree mulch.
You want to definitely water your tree immediately after planting. For a bare root tree that is the size that we planted, you want at least about 3 gallons of water. You don't want to overwater it, you don't want to underwater it. So I get 3-gallon buckets, just fill that up and then put all that water into the hole. If you are in a windy area, you definitely want to stake it because your tree will timber.
How often do I water the tree once it's been planted?
You just don't want the soil to dry out. So however much it takes to keep the soil moist. So if you stick your finger into the first 1 to 2 inches of soil and it's dry, it's definitely time to water.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to keep them watered at least once a week, especially during the first month or 2 after I've planted them.
Depending on your where you live, and again, that's something to check with your local extension office on what your climate is, what zone you're in. They'll be able to provide you a little more information on the best watering schedule.
Especially if you live in a very dry climate, you don't want it to dry out. Also, if your fruit tree that you had just planted was not pruned beforehand, then you'll actually want to prune it immediately after planting. So our fruit tree that we planted was pruned, and that's the way it came when we bought it. And we don't have to do anything this year, so that's great. You want to decide early on what shape do you want your tree to have, and some fruit trees require certain shapes, or they do better with certain shapes, so that is a whole nother post, also on frills&shoots.com, so check it out.
We'll try to link it up here, and we will have all the links down below. And if you have questions, maybe we missed something or you're not sure, feel free to comment. We would love to help you out as best as we can, or at least direct you to maybe a good resource if we do not have the answer, because there's not always the same answer for every question depending on where you live.
Yep, and everybody's experiences are different.
Absolutely.
And we're sharing our experiences that have worked well for us. And if you stay on top of the pruning. Which it sounds scary, but once you do it a couple times, it becomes routine and it gets easier every single year. And if you stay on top of it, it becomes even easier. Second nature, and you have less work to do.
It's like driving a car, stick shift.
Or having a car, maintaining it. If you maintain your car, it's going to drive well.
Exactly.
Same thing with your fruit trees. So
if you have pets or animals, you might want to protect your newborn tree, your new planted tree.
An easy way to do it is to get chicken wire and cut it to about 3 to 4 feet. And just loop it around your tree, and that is especially helpful if you live in an area with deer. Yeah.
Lovely deer. I have lots of deer.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
That's fun.
So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you are interested in this type of stuff. Give us a big thumbs up if you found it helpful, and we will see you again next time.